Got him. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Maybe next time you won't lose. Let me go ahead and see that. Yes, sir. The military, they told us to double tap.
As pink as you're gonna be after all these shots. .com. I told you should have read my article on Blake Bortles. Paintballs and cooking steaks.
Y'all want a medium rare?
Keep them going.
Idiot! Stop coming in last. Choose DynastyWise, the team that is always working for yours.
Hey everyone, welcome to the DynastyWise Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Jeff. Tonight I will be your host. Want to say thank you for listening, and please leave your questions and comments in the bottom. Check us out on Facebook. We have a few guys on Twitter. So just look us up. Of course, check us out at DynastyWise.com.
.com.
There it is. So that's Chad's thing. Everyone does it, but that's Chad's thing. But anyway, let's go to my left here and introduce the players tonight. Pat, why don't you say hello?
Hey, let's get in it.
TM.
Always TM.
And the Walking Sports Encyclopedia is here with us tonight. That's right, I'm talking about Chad.
Hey guys, follow me on Twitter at DynastyWiseChad, and also follow Pat at DynastyWisePadu.
Yeah,
with the T.
I'm not super as active.
Like I say, you could search us on Facebook.
Yeah, you can hit us on Facebook. Yeah, please follow us because
Football.
I'll hook you up with Chad and Clay and Joe. Those guys.
DynastyWise Joe and DynastyWise _ Joe and DynastyWise Clay. One of them's got an underscore. I don't care. They're not here tonight, so we're not promoting their Twitter. Jerks. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know these guys you speak of.
But anyway, and continuing with our rookie talk, tonight we are talking rookie tight ends. We're going to go over a few names, and of course this is very early, so just take what we're listening to. If you get some information that holds on and stands true, this is going to help you out. We want you to win, and we want to be part of you winning because you listen to us, and frankly, we're smarter and more handsome than most people. Would you agree?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I concur.
Y'all were talking about me. I heard smarter and handsome than most.
Oh, okay. All right, guys, let's jump right in it, and let's go to let's travel to Baltimore to the Ravens. They drafted 2 tight ends, but everyone is talking about the Hayden Hurst at tight end, and he's looked great so far. But Pat, what do you got?
I like Double H over there, man. He's got some great things going on. There's some great things coming out of camp. The biggest thing, I guess, for me, what I'm really high on him for is, obviously his talent and everything, and I feel like he does have potential to kind of to be a breakout tight end in 2018, 2019 season. But the big question, honestly, it ties into the Joe Flacco Jackson. Is Joe Flacco going to start the season? I don't think Joe Flacco. I think there's a possibility he may not finish the season, and I like having that rookie tight end there because that's going to be tied into a rookie quarterback as he goes on. I think, and I don't want to talk too much about Joe Flacco, but I think his days are numbered. I think leading into that, having that tight end, that solid tight end there is going to be his go-to guy.
So you're saying for what's his name, Lamar Jackson, Hayden Hurst might be a safety net?
Yeah, I think that's going to be, and I think he's going to get a lot more activity because of not in a lot more than most rookies do. I think that's a possibility. If not, even if Joe Flacco does stay there, that's been a weak position for them for a long time. Or not necessarily a weak position, but they haven't utilized their tight ends the way they should have.
Yeah, ever since Todd Heap.
Yeah, Todd Heap. But look at Heap. He was questionable every week for his entire 20-year career.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Double H has had. He's got a better possibility of. I'm not saying I can't. He hasn't proven himself. I'm not saying he's going to be Todd Heap, but he's got potential. The door's open for him to have that kind of breakout role.
Chad?
Yeah, the tight end situation in Baltimore, like you said, been very cloudy the last couple of years. I like Hurst going to Baltimore. I think that's a very ideal place for him to land. They also drafted another tight end who I saw as number 1 coming into the draft. He kind of slipped, Mark Andrews. I think he's going to push for some playing time along with him, so he may have a little competition there. But yeah, Hurst he's definitely going to be on the field. Whether he puts up numbers, we'll see. They got a whole new receiving core there. They like running the ball with Alex Collins and Javorius Allen. how much, is going to go to the tight end. So we'll see. I just hope he can block.
It's just gonna be. It's just more people for Joe Flacco to overthrow.
True.
Jeff, let me ask you something, because they've ran the double tight end set before. They've had 2 tight ends and all that. Do you think it's just more of the same? That they're not learning from their mistakes? That, are they gonna? Do you think they're gonna play both tight ends?
I think so. I mean, Chad really was high on Andrews, and Andrews came out of Oklahoma, correct, Chad?
Yes, 4-year guy at Oklahoma.
They're both talented, and I'm not going to take away. And Chad brings up a good point in it. I'm just saying it seems like they're almost repeating what they've done in the past, having the 2 tight ends.
But if that's their offense, and they get, there's no doubt Hayden Hurst looks the part, has played the part, has done. If you followed the Ravens this offseason, even a little bit, everything I found was Hayden Hurst looks 1,000% legit. But Andrews has been solid.
On the same note, a guy I used to hear the same about, he was drafted quite a bit higher, but, everybody said that about Eric Ebron too when he got drafted in Detroit, and he never quite developed into that. Hurst got drafted early, not that early, not a number 9, but, is he an Ebron? Or is he Evan Ingram?
I think he's the next Todd Heap. I don't think Ebron, has an attitude. And I think Hurst is a little older, a little more mature. Of course,
Yeah, I mean, he is almost 25, so he's not a young guy.
Even
though he only played 3 years, he's still almost 25 years old.
That's a valid point,
need a
though.
tight end, and we'll get into this. If you need a tight end in your dynasty rookie draft, no one's gonna. If this guy turns out to be another bust like Ebum, no one can point back and say, "Well, you were stupid taking him there," because he does look the part.
Yeah, I mean, like on drafting him a little bit earlier, especially if it's a need position for you. And
where would you draft him, Pat?
I like him early, to be honest with you.
How early? What round? Upper first? Upper second, mid third, where are you taking?
In a rookie draft, so you got to take into consideration.
Yeah, it's an
everybody
established
else,
league. It's something similar. One of the ones that we play in.
Let's say you need a tight end. Obviously, if you've got like the 3rd pick in the draft, you're not going to take a tight end because there's so many guys. But
I like him falling in. I mean, in all honesty, I like him falling mid-second to late second round. I think
I'd tab him right mid-second.
I think he may fall a little bit later.
2.6, 2.7, 2.8.
Yeah.
Just depending
maybe
on
at 2/3.
Well, if somebody wants to go that high on him, I could definitely see it.
No.
Personally, I think Mike Gesicki is going to be the guy this year. I see him more as a early to mid-second, where I see Hurst more second, mid-second, not end of the second. But those are the 2 guys I see right at the top.
And I've got them about even as well. I mean, you're kind of in that draft spot. And see, Gesicki is a good point you bring up, too, because, his spot that he landed, I think made his draft value go up a lot more.
Definitely. They got rid of the older receivers down there in Miami. They've got A.J. Derby there as the number 1 guy now. I don't see Gesicki taking long to just take that number 1 spot from him. And, Miami's got receivers. They don't have that number 1 guy, Devontae Parker, whatever, Danny Amendola's a slot guy. So, they got pieces.
He's suspended.
But, Frank Gore.
Oh, no, that's Edelman.
No, that's Edelman.
Oh,
but
yeah.
in your backfield,
Same
you got
guy.
Frank Gore, who's not a big pass-catching running back. Kenyon Drake, not a big pass-catching running back. Somewhat, but so who's going to get those short yard receptions outside of maybe an Amendola type?
You traded Landry, who was your slot guy.
Yes,
so.
And he's a touchdown. He got 9 touchdowns his senior season. That's
At Penn State,
at
right?
Penn State.
Yeah.
He had him early in the year, late in the year. So, middle of the pack, whatever. He went scoreless on touchdowns, but finished the year strong. I think he's going to be an end zone finder more so, where Hurst will be rack up the yards, not really look to. They'll run the ball in the end zone. So that's why I like Gesicki a little more.
And I can't fault you, or I can't. It's hard to. I wanted to argue on it and try to see if I could, perform a rebuttal. I really can't. It's because he is. I think it's equal value, good landing spot. I wasn't that high on him going in the draft, and then when I saw him landing in Miami, I was like, all right, that jumped his spot
Ryan
up.
Tannehill.
It's true, but
Hey.
When you have a quarterback of that caliber, the tight end is a good spot to.
He's a 380 caliber.
Yeah, and that's
380.
Hey, but exactly that way. To me, like he said, that short yardage. You have your safety net, like we mentioned earlier. and a good tight end. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential there. It really is. And I mean, I kind of have him.
too. He played for bad Penn State teams and still consistently put up numbers. Had a catch every game his career except for one as a freshman. So, out of 45 games, caught a pass in all but one of them. 9 touchdowns. His senior year, I think he had 15 for his career. Almost 1,500 total yards. Didn't start much his freshman year. A couple more games his sophomore year, and then really took off his junior, senior year. But yeah, I'm all for this guy.
I like him. I'm with you. I can't I can't argue. And I see him kind of going in a similar spot. That mid round,
So
that
you're
mid second.
saying mid-second?
Yeah, mid second. I mean, for me, maybe
Early to mid second.
Yeah,
depending on the league, depending on
your needs and all that. Obviously,
everybody's got that tight end they want.
It depends on what picks you've traded away.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
there's a lot that goes into factoring that. But if it's straight up, you have
Yeah.
your normal picks. That's where I like him.
Yeah, I think him and Hurst are just, I don't want to say they're the same guy, but you know what I mean. when I say
They're
the same
different
guy.
players.
They're
I mean-
right. They're both right there.
Right.
They're both
But yeah,
solid.
they both are going to put up quality numbers. Maybe not their rookie season, but they both should have pretty decent careers if all plays out right. Not saying much for anybody else past them too on that part, but
Yeah, I think everybody's going to go a little bit. To me, most tight ends go
Those
a
are
little
the
bit.
two guys if you need a tight end.
Yeah, that's what you would want to look
Yes.
to. If you're hurting at the tight end spot,
if you need help soon and down the line, them too.
yeah, it's kind of
You
a
know,
long-term investment.
There's a
in
couple
there,
other
too.
guys in this draft that we're going to talk about here that I think have a little more long-term investment value, not as much short-term. Dallas Goedert is a good example of that from this class. Zach Ertz there in Philly, the man. They use a lot of running backs out of the backfield catching the passes. Some good receivers. 2 tight ends isn't really a system that works in Philly.
Yeah,
But he will see the field. It's just for him to get the touches early on in his career is going to be tough.
yeah, especially there. I mean, if he has a chance to develop, I think I think he's a good developmental player, and he's going to be in a good system.
He tore it up in college at the Division II level. How's that going to translate?
See,
You
and
know?
he's one of those players that dropped in value because of where he landed. To me,
Yes.
not because of talent.
And honestly, I still think Philly drafted him out of spite, just to kind of kick Dallas because Dallas had the next pick and needed a tight end. So
Yeah, and that's pretty slick.
Yes.
I mean, it's a divisional move, and I can't argue that. I mean, because
No.
it's a low cost,
and
investment.
if he's one of the best players on your board at the time,
Why not? Yeah, and they may have valued him.
They just won the Super Bowl. I think they're okay.
Yeah, and that may be where they valued him. And I mean, what would I guess looking at that, what time period would either one of y'all think that he may get the start, or
I think he develops this year, a little bit more next year, and then I think by year 3 if Ertz is still healthy and the guy there, by year 3 he's going to start cutting into Ertz's time and get him out of town.
I had Ertz on my teams when he was a lot younger, and he did well, and then he faded off to where he's shown up again, and that's Carson Wentz, of course.
yeah,
So if,
That does a lot.
Yeah. Now we're talking. You've got an actual quarterback here who can hit you the ball, and I know it's a passing league, but you still want to establish the run, so you can play the 2 tight end set. But if Ertz continues putting up numbers, then Ertz might price himself out of Philly, and then you have Goedert starting.
that's
Goedert
about.
Well, I need to
starting.
see
That's a
on-
valid point, too,
I need to
'cause
see
they-
on that because if I'm not mistaken,
They've got a lot of talent on that team.
But if
and-
they come with their salary cap crunch and they've given Ertz money, it might have to be a trade.
I'll bring up, I hate bringing his name up, but look at Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, what they did collectively together. That could be one of those
yes,
scenarios.
but the,
I'm not saying
the
that,
systems are totally different in my opinion. And not to mention the Eagles like to throw the ball out of the backfield a lot, so that hurts it.
Yeah,
you can't have 2 tight ends in there and 2 running backs that you're throwing to.
And I'm more talking about when Ertz does come out, you do have another viable sub in because
But if Goedert, as I like to call him,
go dirt,
Dirt.
go the dirt, get the ball, man.
Joe Dirt, if he's talented enough, then the offensive coordinator and head coach Doug Peterson, who was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, they're going to make plays up with 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, they're going to figure out a way to utilize them. I mean, they will. I mean, it is and I do kind of like Chad's timeline he mentioned, maybe
3 years down the road, and you're just Dynasty, so
Well, and seeing
you can
Zach
keep a
Ertz,
guy
I
for
thought
3 years.
I thought Zach Ertz was signed to an extension in 16. He's got a potential out after 19, but I mean he's signed through 21 right now. So I mean I believe it'll be close to that opt out time before Dallas Goedert makes an impact with the Eagles.
All right. So where is this guy going, Chad? Where would you draft Goedert?
Third round, mid third.
Mid third.
It just depends on again, what team's looking for. I can see him going early third. Just one a real heavy wide receiver, talented rookie class. So, a few tight ends might sneak in a little earlier than normal. I think this is a great IDP year. So, if I was looking at him, if I had a good solid starting tight end, and I'm just looking for a backup, I'd maybe go for him in the third.
Pat.
I like actually little, considerably later. Well, not considerably later. I like him more maybe late third, early fourth. I mean, I like him in that time frame. I've got one or two people that may be a little bit higher, maybe higher on him than him, but than him. Good talk, good words, man. But
I'm with you. I think the fourth round is.
Yeah, that's to me. It's just based off of how I value him.
Right. All right, well, let's travel down to the great state of Texas, and let's go to Dallas.
Stars
They
at
lost
night.
Jason Witten. He's retired. They draft Dalton Schultz. What do you have on him, Chad?
Productive guy out of Stanford, young, going into a great situation in Dallas. Dallas kind of got handcuffed last minute with the whole
I'm out.
the whole Jason Witten.
That's exactly how that went down.
Going to CBS.
Yeah.
Before he was retired, he already had a job on TV, which was kind of weird.
Yeah. That's Romo too, huh? Romo pretty much did the same. I mean, they kind of planned for it, but I mean, it was also he already had the TV deal almost in the bag.
Whatever, just make Dallas even worse. I'm good with that. So yeah, they kind of got handcuffed. Schultz had the pedigree coming out. He's not, Evan Engram. He's not O.J. Howard, but he's going to be a guy. We'll see if he can beat out what they have. Jeff Swaim. I think Jeff Swaim's competent. Not much after that there. So, hey, if he can block, keep Prescott up, and get open a few times, he's got a chance to make some noise. But I don't think it's going to be anything too loud.
I think he has the opportunity to really. He has it laid out in front of him to where it's for the taking. Just because they did have Jason Witten. It's hard to replace a Jason Witten, man. You can't.
He's one of my favorites over the last 10, 15 years.
I can't argue the fact that the dude produced, and the problem is you can't replace him. Is he the answer? He might be. He's got the opportunity to be able to prove himself out and develop into that. There's very few tight ends I've ever seen that. Have broken out their rookie season and just smashed it, and just knocked down doors. But he's got potential to be able to earn his spot and be able to, be productive. I'm a little bit higher on him just because of his landing spot, and I think Prescott does need that tight end. He needs a tight end that he can rely on, especially with them passing out to Elliott in the backfield and all that stuff. But I think that there's potential there.
If Dallas gets back to being Dallas, running the ball with Ezekiel Elliott, you are opening up to a lot of play action passes where the tight end's going to be. Dallas, Witten's gone. Witten go down as the greatest tight end overall. He could block, he could catch, he could run routes. He's probably the only guy that will supplant Ozzie Newsome in my mind as the greatest tight end ever, just because of that. So, but as Chad pointed out, they have other tight ends. So Schultz doesn't have to come in as he's our savior. He's not going to have that pressure. I like Schultz. I think he's got the skill set and everything to do it. And I agree with you, Pat. I think he landed in a good position to earn a job. There's not big names that he's got to go up against. So, as far as Schultz, I'm looking at him if you need him. And, of course, I'm going to say it again. This is very, very early to be talking about this. We haven't got the training camps. Take what we're saying with grain of salt, but if there is something useful, keep it. I'm going to say he's just if Goedert goes 4th round, 4th pick, to me, Schultz goes 4th round, 3rd pick.
Yeah, I like that. I like maybe an early 4th round. I mean, maybe obviously need based all that, but I kind of like that. Maybe
In a redraft league, yes. In the dynasty, no.
I say in Dynasty, we're talking Dynasty. I'm saying he goes a pick before Goedert, just because I think he's got a chance to play more than
Now, but I think next year
But I also like
they're bringing in somebody else to knock him out.
He is kind of a boomer bust.
This year's
believe
tight
in
end
the
class
boom.
just to me, I was surprised they actually had a tight end go in the first round this year. As good as Hurst can be, I'm surprised.
yeah.
It's not that great of a class.
I-
2, maybe 3. Last year's class they were top heavy with 2 really, really good ones. That was it.
And I thought you were going to. I'm gonna go ahead and say what I thought you were going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they even had tight ends this draft. Because I mean, there's a couple at the top, and then it's breaking down, and I mean, and then honestly, I know our listeners, they'll probably agree. It's like after this point, you're really just speculating. I mean, which fantasy is a speculation in general, but based off our research and all, I think there's. I like where you have him, Jeff. And Chad kind of hit the nail on the head. There are other tight ends competent. So if his goal is to be a little bit better than competent to get the job,
Right.
that's. I mean, if
What a great place to be. Let's just be a little bit competent.
Yeah.
We'll pay you
Yeah.
6
if
figures.
his
Hey, you
football
can hold a clipboard for me, and I'll pay you millions of dollars.
Look,
Okay.
the other tight ends football IQ is 50. If you can be 50 and a half, man, you got that.
You got 6 figures.
Yeah.
It's like, God.
League minimum.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I mean, but it's such a small investment. In all honesty, I mean, because it's, he's a rookie coming out. They really don't have to invest much in him. There'll be a little bit more time, but I think it's a good spot because if Dallas, I mean, losing, it's not like Des Bryant was a huge loss, but he was still a loss. I mean, he
Yes.
was still a safety blanket for Dak Prescott. I mean,
Well,
once defenses figured him out, I mean, that was.
yeah.
The teams who really, 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 really needed tight ends in this draft, Baltimore, who went out and did what they had to do. They got Andrews and Hurst. Miami, Miami had nobody.
Yeah.
They got one. Dallas,
They got one.
they got one.
They had people.
Do you
on
see the
depth
difference
chart.
in that?
Oh, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
know-
I'm believing in his upside. Chad's not believing in his upside.
The only
Pat,
team
you're
that did
kind of
worse
right
at
there.
filling their
Yeah.
tight end position was Houston.
Yeah, Houston didn't really.
And they're the ones
guys
probably
play.
needed it more than anybody else.
Yeah, they really did.
I thought they would do a little bit better than they did. I mean, I thought they would do something similar to Baltimore. In all honesty, I figured they would go out and try to get a couple of them. But
Which they did, but I mean, yeah.
there's people holding spots.
Well,
but
let's travel to the East Coast now.
let's do it.
Let's go to one of my favorite jerseys, the black, blue, silver. We're talking Carolina. They brought in Ian Thomas. Is it Ian Thomas?
Yeah,
Yes, Ian
that-
Thomas.
that is
Oh,
correct.
thank you. But Ian Thomas, what do you have, Chad? What you
Only
got?
had limited experience up until his senior year. Kind of exploded on the scene his senior year. Had 2 touchdowns in the opener against Ohio State. Put up good numbers. Not a high reception total, but it's Indiana.
Yeah.
Not going to get a whole lot out of your tight end position, especially when you're playing against Big Ten teams, with massive linebackers and DNs and whatnot. But put up decent numbers his senior year. He's a project guy who went to the perfect project place with Carolina. Olsen's not done yet. Still got probably a few good years left in him. But if this guy can get some tutelage under Olsen, made Ed Dixon better. Dixon got signed to a contract just being behind Olsen. I think this is a good spot for him to where in 2, 3, 4 years, he may not be a high-end tight end, but he could be a guy that's productive in the league, like a, Jermaine Gresham, who,
Yeah, I mean,
you name it, guys.
Yeah.
Just your in-between guys. Not quite a Martellus Bennett level, but
He'll get you through a tight spot.
Yes.
I mean, Greg Olson's going to be, I think, 30. He's 33. I think he's going to be 34, but tight ends, dude, they can play till they're 56. It's weird.
If their body holds up.
Yeah, I mean, look at Antonio Gates. He
And
played
Olsen
for
got hurt
30
last
years.
year, so.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think his body's starting to break down. And I was never really impressed with Ed Dixon in, Baltimore. I feel like he was just, I don't want to say wasted there, and that may have been his utilization. That was part of that project they had in Baltimore.
Ed Dixon was a wide receiver turned tight end.
And I mean, and that's fine, but I'm basing it based off of what he did in Baltimore.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
Yeah.
he was Ed Dixon was a wide receiver. They made into a tight end and still came out pretty good. He just took a while to get along. So generally, guys like that will go to their second team before they blossom.
And that's possible. I mean, I got to look up how much he spent quite a bit of time in Baltimore, though. I mean, and I think that was part of the failed 2 tight end project, or that's what I was kind of mentioning there. And it's in Baltimore, there's definitely potential, for Ian to do well
There's
over
that
there.
magic word, potential.
Potential, yeah. And I mean, and there's a development.
Right now, it's all talk about potential.
It is, but I mean, but look at now, and I do have to argue the point, the fact that we actually talked about it a little bit off air. Obviously, Cam Newton is a much better fantasy quarterback than Joe Flacco.
Or is he?
He is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah, I mean, granted, but there is potential there, and I think those 2 tight ends. I don't think Greg Olson's going to last the season, without getting injured. I mean, that's always
Watch your face. Don't you put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't you put that juju on me?
Yeah, I'm expecting a big year from Olsen coming back off his injury that, if hadn't been for me being a genius in drafting Evan Engram last year, would have killed me. But
You still have Ingram?
yes, I do.
That's good because Olsen's going out. That's I honestly I hope he doesn't, but at the same token I hope he does because I'd
Greg
really
Olsen, if you're out there somehow and you happen to catch wind of this, his name
He's
is
a fan.
Pat.
Pat
At DynastyWise Pat.
He wanted to come on. I said no.
He lives in Spring, Texas.
he wasn't willing to wear the hat, so we couldn't let him on.
I said, wear the hat.
But again, there's always something going on that, there's always inner workings that nobody knows. I mean, even insiders don't know, or I guess more people that are more insider than us. But it is one of those things that there's potential there, and I honestly, I think it's very possible that he's going to overstep Ed Dixon over there.
Well, Ed Dixon's left.
Ed Dixon's gone.
He went
Ed
to
Dixon's in Seattle.
Oh, my bad. Was I've been talking like Ed Dixon. Why'd you guys let me?
Because Chad said Ed Dixon pretty much got a contract from being behind.
Oh, okay. Anyways,
You know what? You might be a lot smarter if you listen to me more.
so yeah, no. So well then,
No.
well then I can change my opinion altogether. When Greg Olsen gets hurt,
Yeah.
he's definitely going to get the go. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's my. Chad shot me the
Some
bird.
birds flying around in here.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest potential there is I feel like it's opportunity that he's going to get when inevitably Greg Olsen either retires in a year or two. He may last. I would like to see him last long because I like Greg Olsen, but I just don't.
Of course, you're not inside the room, but Olsen comes across as not kind of like an ass, like Brett Favre.
Barbara.
Favre, he comes across as
He
a
does
guy.
now. This guy does do a lot in the community.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
he was
it
out
has
for
nothing to do with
the
the community.
sportman.
This
and
has
the-
nothing to do with
I'm just
the
saying.
No, I'll bash his character later.
Damn it, guys. I'm talking. He doesn't, it's nothing to do with community. It's how he perceives rookies coming in to quote unquote take his job. Like Ben Roethlisberger not treating Mason Rudolph good.
He's
Brett
scared and he
Favre
should be.
didn't treat Aaron Rodgers good. So I don't know, but Olsen doesn't come across like that type of jerk. He comes across as you're gonna be in that room, and this ties in what Chad says. You're gonna be in a room with Greg Olsen. You're gonna learn something, and that's why I like Ian Thomas in a dynasty setting. Redraft, no. I mean, this guy shouldn't even be written down.
No.
But dynasty,
Yeah,
setting,
redraft. He may get on the. I mean, he'll have Ed Dixon type numbers from last year. I think he's just capable. He's just going to take a little more developing, kind of like Dixon did,
But
as we said. But
in a dynasty draft, I'm
yes.
looking 6th round.
depending on how many rounds you have, I've got him, 5th to 6th. Throw in guy at the end of your draft.
Yeah.
If you got an extra spot, maybe on your taxi squad or.
He's a good guy to draft, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's definitely potential there.
Definitely.
I like him. I'm thinking maybe early fifth for him, maybe a little bit later. But I mean, I think as much as I hate saying it, Chad, I feel like he's going to overtake that role from Greg Olson sooner rather than later.
Okay.
It's very possible.
That's why I mentioned make the investment.
yes,
early.
an injury is possible. Yes, Greg Olson is getting up there. He may want out of Carolina if they don't, keep winning.
I mean, but then again, I will say if we based everything off potential of injury, then we might.
Oh,
as well-
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
Then
definitely.
everyone here.
I mean, unless it's
Then I never
unless
would've-
it's just a guy that's always hurt.
I never would have taken Gronk. You know,
Right,
you know.
yeah, definitely. Well, let's go on up
Our
to
disclaimer.
Minnesota
Minnesota.
with Tyler Conklin being taken there. Pat, why don't you start us off?
I like it. I mean, Minnesota's definitely, there's a lot of good things happening up there. I mean, I'm curious what the breakdown's going to be, when it's all shaken out and all that. But again, another one, it's got a lot of potential up there. I mean, I've honestly, he's one of the ones that I've done a little bit less research, on. I really want to see, in all honesty, how the training camp shake out, and kind of see, get more input on, watch some of the videos on how, him catching some passes and seeing how he's going to, jam up some on the line and all that. I mean, I know that really doesn't matter on fantasy, how he jams up and, gets a block, but it does mean more playing time if he's able to do some of those things. But I like him. Minnesota's a good spot for him to land, especially. I think Minnesota's doing some really, really good things up there. They do have some good receivers up there, but they're starting to throw that ball an awful lot. And I think that's every time that ball goes in the air, it's potential to land in his arms.
The only reason I like putting Conklin in this conversation is I see Minnesota really wanting to reach out and get that second tight end. They want a guy who can block, that can go aside, root off, protect the running backs, let their top two receivers do their thing, but their receiving core is not much after those two guys. You got Thielen and Diggs, Rudolph, will Cook be much out of the backfield. Latavius Murray's not a big ball catcher. I think it's a really good chance for him to step in and be productive early on. I mean, he scored in short work last year. He scored 5 touchdowns. He had 6 the year before. Sorry. So he had decent numbers. It's at Central Michigan. He's up from that area. Just a guy I see being a workhorse, making a name in that lineup, and putting up relevant number 2 fantasy tight end numbers.
I disagree. I'm not a fan of Tyler Conklin. He took a bad break on his foot, and it doesn't look like he's ever really 100% recovered from it. Kyle Rudolph is probably the most underrated good tight end.
Oh, I agree. I like Kyle Rudolph. I'm not trying to say this guy's going to replace him or any. I think he's got a chance to be a number 2 guy.
Right. I'm not sold on this guy because of the foot injury. I do think he jumped like 38 inches on the vertical with his size. I mean, that is a red zone target. I'm not saying that's all negative, and there are positives.
But if that's what he is, hey, I'll take it all day long. Give me 30 yards and a touchdown a game. That's 9 points right there.
Right there. But
Depending on your scoring.
Even if it's 15, hey, give me 10 yards and a touchdown a game.
Asterisk,
That's,
depending.
Yeah, 7-8 points out of a tight end. I mean, obviously, yes.
If it's a guy late that you're picking for, and
I would, yes. I mean, to get me by on a bye week, yes, I would love
he's
to have
me, he is a bye week guy.
of course,
It's like-
Yeah.
but he's relevant to the conversation, I think, because he's a guy that could stick around in the league and could see time on the field
Yeah, and there's potential. And
in
Kyle,
this week class.
Kyle Rudolph he's 28, and we talked about, these guys having careers that could potentially, last a long time. The foot injury does concern me as well, and especially because, look what the foot injury did to Sammy Watkins. I mean, I don't know if he's ever recovered from his foot injury. I know, granted, he's carrying around a lot more body weight and all that, but, being able to get that high up for a tight end, a man of his size, that's pretty substantial. I mean, that's a huge, red zone target. And at the end of the day, that's what you need from a tight end is someone that can block and give you a red zone target.
As far as this guy, as far as I say, not doubting y'all's points or whatever, but this guy, even on my Dynasty League, I'm not drafting him. This is a guy that, to me, this guy is a waiver wire pickup.
Again, depending on how deep your draft is, Some go
traditional
5, some go
seven-round,
7.
yeah.
7 rounds is a lot of rounds.
It
And
is.
I mean,
Well, if you have IDP, those rounds go pretty, or, that's a,
they do, but
yeah,
still,
no, I'm with you.
You know.
We'll just say standard, if you're
you know,
doing team defense.
Do you want a guy who's going to be a third cornerback on his team, or do you want a guy who's potentially going to see the field at tight end?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jeff. I mean, I like the potential there, but at the same token, I don't know if I'd waste a draft pick. Maybe if maybe a set, if it's a full 7 rounds or whatever. I mean, maybe one of my last picks to have a project. But then again, he's going to take up one of my practice squad spots, and I don't like that because I feel like there's a lot of other people out there you could have on your practice squad and ride them out for a couple of years. But at the same token, there is potential for him being able to get ups, and there are some possible scoring opportunities there.
Well, I think let me take a brief moment here, guys, to kind of explain our league.
A
kinda
brief
quickly.
moment.
A brief moment. Like we try to make ours as close to the NFL as possible. So we do IDP, individual defensive players. And we've just upped the scoring to make it matter. And so now drafting defensive players has become something.
Well, it mattered
that
last year. Our champion had the best defense in our league.
Well, I mean, this year it's like Mosley with the updated scoring system, he averaged 15.4 points a game. That's a linebacker.
That's nasty.
So to me, that's where I think this guy is a waiver wire pickup,
Because that's a linebacker, or that's a safety you could pick up, that has potential to get tackles and
Right,
points
and
if you're
put him
doing
on your
IDP.
taxi
Those guys
squad.
are going way before you're going to pick this guy up.
But with our league, and
don't
if
know.
your league is similar
What about
to our
tight end
league,
premium leagues?
where we keep IDP, where IDP is valued, this is, you might rather take a safety or a cornerback or a linebacker that has potential. I think if you're an IDP like us, that does kind of push this guy out.
So Kyle Rudolph gets hurt in week 1. Who's their guy?
Well, if anyone gets hurt week 1, who's the
Well,
guy?
but I take that into consideration on these guys. I mean, you have to say, okay, if this is the team's number 2 tight end, there's potential for him to start.
Sure.
Every guy we did on here, Philadelphia has Richard Rodgers along with Zach Ertz and Goedert. Goedert may not see the field at all. Hayden Hurst.
Why were you so high
Hayden
on
Hurst
him
and
then?
Mark Andrews are both going to be going. It's not for sure that Hurst beats out Andrews. Gesicki right now is the number 2 guy in Miami. Do I think he'll be the number 1 before the end of the year? Yes, but he's the number 2 guy.
Right.
Dalton Schultz, the number 2 guy. These guys don't necessarily have any better shot of seeing the field than Tyler Conklin.
So would you take Dalton Schultz? Would you take Tyler Conklin over Dalton Schultz?
I personally, and late round flyers, I don't like either one of them as far as for my team. I would take Ian Thomas over both of them, but I'd be okay with not drafting any of those guys. I think you got Gesicki. I think you got Hurst. Goedert's got the potential down the line. I'd say minimum 3 years. After that, I think this is just a very poor tight end class. But there's still guys that are going to fill positions on teams that will have, quote unquote, fantasy relevance.
All right. Well, for fantasy relevance, I mean, I guess keep everyone.
I think he's a free agent. I think
Injuries.
he's like a 6th, 7th round pick, free agent. Depending on how deep your league is, tight end premiums, whatever. That's about it.
If I picked him up, it's gonna be a late round pick. I'm thinking maybe 7th round. If it's the 7th round,
I just look at things as okay. Dynasty future, Fumagalli in Denver's got a future to
Yeah.
do something, even though he's the number 3 guy out there right
Yeah.
now.
He's competitive as hell. That's
you
what they
know,
like about him.
you
He
got-
doesn't look good anywhere, but he's just got
Yeah.
that heart.
Yeah, good player. Just we'll see how he translates to the NFL. You got Jordan in Houston, who both of them probably won't be on this team next year. One of them might be, but they have some relevance early on, and if they can produce, we'll see. But
and it's tough wasting a draft pick on him. I mean, it's really honestly, if you to me, like for us, I mean, last say seventh pick, seventh round pick. But if I feel like this guy's going to fall into the waiver wires and I can pick him up, then obviously that's what I'm going to do.
If you're in a position where you've got to draft Tyler Conklin for tight end, there's something wrong with your drafting.
Well, I mean, what if you not
there's
necessarily if
32
you're
teams.
If it's a project, I mean, if
There's 32 teams, so if he goes down and you don't have any other tight end on your team that you're relying on Tyler Conklin in the draft, that's pretty bad.
But we're not just talking draft. We're talking dynasty potential.
Yeah,
so
I know, but this is a waiver wire guy for me.
definitely.
I mean,
Maybe seventh round, like I said,
I mean,
maybe last round. Just depends
what-
on how much you like him.
and-
Because you're right, NFL does stand for not for long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it all depends on, like I said, and if you're looking at other teams and you feel like, if I'm looking over at Jeff and I feel like there's potential that Jeff, obviously Jeff's not going to take him, but I know Chad, he's like, all right, Chad had, maybe mentioned him in passing and I think he may pick him up, but I mean, I'd really like to have him, I mean, to me, it'd make it a lot easier. I feel like if Kyle Rudolph was a year, maybe 2 years older, I would move him up a little bit more.
Well, first off, I don't appreciate Chad bringing him up because I have.
I knew you did.
have Kyle
I know you did,
Rudolph.
and that's the whole reason that I brought this
Kyle
guy
Rudolph.
up.
My team. He was the one dogging your
Well, no,
guy.
I mean, I honestly think Kyle Rudolph's going to get hurt this year, and
Why
that's
don't you-
Had
you
the
know
Greg
what?
Olson, had the Greg
You know
Olson
what?
talk not came up, I would have never mentioned Tyler Conklin
I'm on Chad's
at
side
all.
with this. There's another here.
Well, I mean-
Pat's not a very liked man right now.
well, I mean, when they, I mean,
Hey, this is coming from the guy who owns Gronkowski, okay? So we all know whose tight end's really going to get hurt this year.
but I also got to back up, so I wanted to make sure that was taken
Hey,
care
I'll
of.
take my starter and my backup over either one of your guys.
Who do you have?
I've got Olson and I've got Ingram. You got Gronkowski and who?
Oh boy,
Oh boy, yeah, I know that
Kelsey?
Travis Kelsey, yeah.
I
Oh.
take Pat.
guy. Kelsey. Yeah, okay, never mind.
All right, guys. Well, we're coming on the 40-minute mark here. I
Don't
think we-
cut me off. Travis Kelsey.
So anyway,
Evan Ingram is the next stud tight end, by the way.
we want to thank you for listening to Dynasty Wise Fantasy Football Podcast. Again, come to our page, DynastyWise.com. We've got articles, rankings. We got some polls up there we'd like you to vote on. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Dynasty Wise Fantasy Football. We're out there in the Twitterverse. Chad, please give your Twitter again.
At DynastyWiseChad. You can also visit the site page at DynastyWiseFF.
Something like that.
And at
W.
DynastyWiseClay, at DynastyWiseJoe, and of course at DynastyWisePatu.
We also have a live event coming at the 11 Below Brewery. The date's not set, but it's looking like it's probably about 2 to 3 weeks out. We'll look for us on the website to post that. We'll probably do a podcast. We're going to do a live podcast and event over there and be giving away hopefully some swag, man, some shirts and some other cool little items and all that. And we might, hopefully we'll get a few people to sit down. But actually that might be a good one to discuss, maybe startup leagues or something like that.
Well, we're also 4 weeks away from our league draft, which I'm hoping we get podcasted from live there as well for the site, so you can kind of get some insight on what we do as a league. And
Yeah, a
our
lot of
finest
cussing and gay
fantasy.
talk.
Yes.
Is-
And a lot of trades, man. I love the draft.
Trades.
The draft, trade. We might as well call
There
it
was a trade made today.
Yeah.
Right before this
Yes.
podcast started.
Right before we started.
We may as well
There was
change.
a handshake between two gentlemen who hate Pat
Yes.
because Pat's an ass.
What?
Yes.
That's right, man.
I'm not that bad.
You're not getting out of this brilliant podcast room alive
No.
today. But
Even though it's your
Cage match.
house, but
yeah, even though there's many exits, and your dog's over there looking at us. But all right, folks, thanks for tuning in, and our next podcast hopefully will be next week, and it'll be covering IDP.
IDP.
All right, take it easy,
individual
folks.
defensive player.
We really need music.
You want me to whip something up?
I don't know. We're still
Are
recording.
you gonna whip it or are you gonna nay it?
Whip it good.
I'll wait. I'm not going to make you sit in silence while I work on a song, but I'll get something put together here pretty quick.
How about "I'm a Loser, Baby" by
No, because I
Beck.
mean,
That's a perfect song
we,
for you.
How about "I'm a Believer" by the Monkees?
or how about Cataloop?
What?
Cataloop.
Why don't y'all just
By us
sing that
three?
song again?
Let's not.
No, that was nice improv at the time.
That was very nice
it felt right at the time. It felt
Yes.
it was gentle and nice.
If you're still listening, thank
It's
you.
got to be natural. Why are we still talking?
I don't know. Why am I still recording?
Man,
Is the
because this is gold, man.
I know.
This
I
is
know.
solid gold.
This podcast is just going to end. People are going to be listening, and it's just going to end.
And Finn.
Yeah.